Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be back here in Reykjavik. It's my 6th or 7th time here. First time at UTMESSAN, but I've been at Startup Iceland and a few other events here. So my name is Rory Donnelly. I'm CEO for DigiMe, a personal data exchange platform. And I'm here to talk to you today about how personal data privacy can enable more innovation. Kind of sounds a bit like an oxymoron. How do you have privacy and innovation in the same sentence? It doesn't seem to make sense, does it? But hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will have been a little bit better enlightened. So first of all, I want to talk to you about some of the personal data issues that are out there today. You're no doubt familiar with all of these. Privacy breaches, they're going on all the time. The biggest one was Cambridge Analytica last year. Companies are having serious troubles in being able to secure the data, personal data, real issues. These are issues that are faced by companies all the time. These privacy breaches are continuing to go on, and they will continue. With the proliferation of personal data out there, they can't stop it. These two things are leading to an erosion in trust, the trust of the individual vis-a-vis how the companies are dealing with your data. This is not a good situation. As anybody in business would know, without trust, your business is not going to be doing very well. It's not just the likes of Facebook and Google. There's banks that are selling our data over to credit agencies. Governments are actually sharing our data with health companies, whether it's hospitals or trusts. That's without our opt-in. But it's not all bad. Some of these are for good use and they're giving us good services, so it's not all bad. But I think the overwhelming situation that people understand now that, the data gathering and guzzling companies, they have the power up here while the individual is down here. So there's, this way off between the risks and benefits. And, the individual is not in a good situation here. So we need a fair spread of power. So, obviously, we decided to bring in some legislation last year. There's a lot of people out there talking on the various different stands about GDPR. I won't bore you too much about that. But, since the GDPR came in last year with the legislation, we've seen a reduction in email lists. Great. We've seen a reduction in programmatic advertising, which is great too, for individuals. And it's a tightening of personal data usage. Before the personal internet goes off the rails, we need to slow it down and slow down the personal internet. It's just what we all wanted, isn't it? Right? So that's what we asked for, and that's what we've got. But actually, that's all wrong. Why do we want to slow down the internet? We don't want to slow down the internet. We want the internet to go faster. We want new economies. We want new inventions and things like that, but there's a trade-off here. So the good news is that the GDPR has been sold all wrong, right? Everybody's got it wrong with the GDPR so far. They're thinking about slowing it down. The other way is, well, we need to speed it up. And how do we speed it up? Well, we need three key fundamental things. First is privacy, second is security, and third is consent. Once we have these, we can speed it up. So before I get to the solution, let me give you an analogy. The seatbelt analogy. So back in the 40s and 50s, in the last century, cars were going faster and faster. And as they were going faster and faster, there were more fatalities. As there were more fatalities, they asked to have legislation brought in to put in speed limits. But instead of putting in speed limits, they legislated for putting in safety measures into cars. The first safety measure was a seatbelt. A little seatbelt that just went there. It didn't even go over here. It was only on the driver's side. It wasn't on the passenger side. Only decades later did they have seatbelts in the back seats. Right? Then they had roll bars. So if the car turned over, you wouldn't be crushed. They had crumple zones so they could take impact. So instead of, sorry, I forgot to put that there. So instead of slowing down and putting speed limits in place, what they actually did was enable the cars to go faster, do new things, go off-road, new uses. This is what they did back in the 50s, 40s and 50s. Essentially, this is what we need to do here with the personal internet. So what could be our safety belt? How do we put safety measures in place? Well, actually, the GDPR of today already has two of those elements, which is data portability and right of access. Very few people talk about it. It's not really well understood. It's not embraced. It's not adopted. And the third element is me, you, individuals. We are the only ones that can take ownership and control of our data. We are a very key part of this new way of thinking. Lots of businesses out there would love to be able to get access to your rich data. Right? Rich data, it's wide, it's deep, it's in longitudinal, it's accurate, it's normalized, and all these types of things. But in order for business to be able to get access to that, they need to go to you, the individual. Now, would you as an individual give all your data to one company? Your health data, your financial data? You wouldn't. Nobody would do that. There's just too much risk. You know, vis-a-vis the first slide that I put up there. There's far too much risk out there with all that data. But there's only one person that you could trust, that I could trust, is me. I could have all my data. Even if the business wanted it, they wouldn't know all the different networks and systems that I'm on. It's impossible. Even if it was legal or whatever, it wouldn't be possible. I could do it. To do that, I would need a personal data tool. Now, how does this work? So it's kind of like Outlook. Outlook, you bring in your various different email clients, you bring it into Outlook, you can access it there. Microsoft is not looking at it, it's yours. You can share it off if you want. So it's very, very similar. With this, you have all your data streams on the left-hand side. With your credentials, you can get a copy brought into your own personal, private digital library. All right? This data is stored on your own personal cloud, whether it's on Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, fully secured, fully encrypted. You are the only person that has a key and sits within your library. Nobody else has got it. This is a personal data tool, similar to the one that we build as DigiMe, but there's also others out there. We don't see, we don't touch, and we don't hold the data. Most important, we don't hold the data. This is where it's all gone wrong on the other side, is that there's these big honeypots, and that's where the attackers go for. Once it's completely decentralized, the surface area for attack is completely minimized. Right? So on the other side, I can now share my data out to third parties, but I'm in control. I decide who I share with. Right? Let me give you an example. If I wanted to share, if I wanted to get a loan from a bank, the bank may not have or may have a thin credit file on me, and in this instance, they would not be able to give me a loan. So it's not good for me, it's not good for the bank because they're missing out on data. Now imagine if I gave 2 years' worth of my financial transactions to the bank. They could see that I'm actually apt to be able to repay my loans. So they could give me a loan. Good for me, good for the bank. Now in this example, I've talked about actually me sending 2 years' worth of data over to the bank. I might not be completely happy about that. Maybe I might be. You know, different folks, different strokes. But actually for the bank, they don't need that data. All they need is actually the analysis of what my data is telling them. They don't need the data. If they take that data, they've got to store it. It costs them money. They've got to secure it. It costs them money. Third thing is, if they get hacked, that's their reputation is gone. Their brand is gone, right? They don't need that. They just need the result of the analysis from the data. So why would they take that data? They don't need to. Let me give you another example, and I'm going to introduce to what I call private sharing. Again, another dichotomy. How do you have privacy and sharing? That doesn't seem to make sense. I'll talk to you about it now. So the other example is a health insurance company. What do health insurers want? They want a healthy population, or client base, should I say, right? Now, if they were to ask me for my health data, access to my health data, to my genomic data, to my financial data, to my wearables data, they could actually give me some great advice on how I can improve my health. But I can see everybody thinking, I'm not going to hand over my health data. You'd be right. But actually, with private sharing, you don't need to give it over. So what this private sharing is, instead of sending the data to the bank, like we talked about earlier, instead of sending the data to the processing, we bring the processing to the data. And this is all happening on device. None of the data leaves the device. It's happening between two applications, your library on your device and the third-party application. It's all happening on your device. They can give you advice on how you can improve your health. If you knew that this was happening, and this is under contract law, right? If you knew that this was happening, that the data was not leaving your device, well, you'd be more inclined to share, I think, more data, possibly more sensitive data. And in return, you could get some really valuable service, convenience, reward. How good is that? Edge processing, better for businesses, better for me. The business now can get access to rich data instead of these tiny little silos that are often inaccurate, data staling, data misassociation, all these types of things. They now get accurate data, fully normalized and everything. Tim Cook, he talks about it. He's a big advocate. Privacy is a big thing for Apple. They're going to Washington this year. It's going to be top of the agenda. I think they're going to put in the US equivalent of GDPR. He's all the time talking about it. Satya Nadella, the same. This thing is happening, right? Tech companies need to defend privacy as a human right. I once saw an interview with Sir Tim Berners-Lee. I don't know if you know Sir Tim Berners-Lee. He's the founder of the internet, essentially. And he was asked, would you be prepared to pay for privacy? And he said, no, it's a human right. He's dead right. Why would you pay for privacy? You shouldn't have to. All of these companies up here, or companies, should I say, industries, whether it's the fintech, AI, consumer IoT, whatever, they all depend on one thing: availability of rich consumer data with privacy, security, and consent. Without that, they will bumble along. With it, they will flourish. So let me give you some concrete examples. And we have an expression in English, Sod's Law. I don't know if any of you are aware of it. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. So I decided not to do live demonstrations of apps that are built on this technology. I'm just going to show you videos. So do apologize for that. If anybody wants to see live demonstrations of these, I can do it. It's on my phone in the back of my pocket. First example, and I have about 6 or 7 of these. Retina Risk. Risk is actually an Icelandic company. And they have an application which is called Retina Risk. It essentially assesses your risk levels of getting retinopathy. It's targeted towards diabetics. And obviously, with retinopathy, you can go blind, so it's a very important thing. It looks at about 6 measurement points, whether it's your glucose, blood pressure, type of diabetes, and so on. And it can be really good in educating diabetes on how to manage their situation. It tracks and monitors the disease progression. It gains insights into your condition, and it's been clinically proven. Dr. Einar, who is the founder and owner of this, he's got over 25 years experience in this. He's a world guru in this. Let me very quickly show you a video on this. Measures your propensity to get retinopathy in the 1 year or in 5 years. It'll give you your risk levels. This algorithm is it's been tested in the UK to make savings of about £40 million in 1 year alone through savings by not having to go to a specialist to get a scan. £40 million in the UK alone, one country, 1 year. Massive changing situation. Healthy Me is probably the best way of explaining it is a version of a doctor-patient viewer. Brings all your health data together, whether it be your vaccinations, your medications, conditions, prescriptions, and encounters. You can record key measurements, and you can share your data with health providers. You know, I've heard of people having an X-ray in one hospital, having to go to another hospital and not being able to transfer one to the other, having to ask for a disc and all this kind of stuff. It's just crazy. It's ridiculous. The other thing is if you're abroad and you unfortunately end up being sick or in a hospital, you've got to share your data. Well, it's sometimes very, very difficult. With something like this, you can do it immediately. Again, a very quick video. This is your consent certificate. It has 6 questions. Essentially, it tells you very, very quickly, instead of having 80 pages of terms and conditions, it'll ask you what data they're going to ask you for what purpose, for how long, if they're going to store the data, or if they're going to share the data, and your right to be forgotten. This application was developed here in Iceland by Rion Software. Next application is an application called UBDI, which is Universal Basic Data Income. Essentially, you're sharing your anonymized data with a platform in return for cryptocurrency, and they will share this with market research panels, insights, and things like that. I'll show you the video.
UBDI is a community of individuals, developers, and companies, creating a new ethical way for you to get paid for the value of the data you produce, potentially worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars a year. Here's how it works. UBDI helps you make money by allowing you to share anonymous insights from your data with companies from market research, a $50 billion industry. Only aggregated, anonymized information is used. Companies want to know things like how much people spend on coffee and which brand they prefer, or what kinds of places people who exercise daily like to eat at and travel to. They don't want to know about you personally, just groups of people like you. Private sharing technology by DigiMe makes it easy for you to securely import data to a data vault only you control. You can choose from thousands of sources like Fitbit and Spotify, your credit card, and social media accounts like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Based on the accounts you've connected, our private match platform will present you with market research opportunities without ever disclosing your identity or actual data. Each opportunity will explain what insights a company wants and how much they'll pay. Some opportunities may offer to pay even more if you are willing to share feedback or ideas about their product or service. After you've selected the opportunities you like, we will pay you in our digital currency called UBDI, which represent your share in the profits generated by the entire community. The more opportunities you participate in, the more UBDI you'll earn, which you'll be able to exchange for cash later this year or hold as an investment that could grow. Sign up for the UBDI community waitlist today to earn 1,000 bonus UBDI tokens. We are launching the UBDI app this spring and hope you'll be part of changing how all of our data is collected and monetized.
So you can gain, cryptocurrency for your data, and it's all done privately. You're actually not really giving it away. It's just the insights. How good is that? Changing tack completely here, that effing post. I don't know if you understand what effing means. It's one of the English bad words. I'm not allowed to say it because I think I'm on video somewhere. But essentially what this does is it will take an analysis of your last 3-5 years worth of social media data and figure out if you've got any bad words out there when you might not want to have them out there anymore if you're changing job or something like that. And it will enable you to go and delete that content or edit that content if you wish. Very quick video. This application works today on Android and iOS, but on Android it works for Icelandic bad words. So go try it. iOS will be coming probably in a couple of days. The approvals take a little bit longer with Apple. SAND is essentially social analytics data. This again, it takes some of your social data from the last number of years, and it will do lots of analysis on which are the best posts. I can just about see this, your number of likes, your shares, your comments, which is the best time to post for the best engagements, top emojis by engagement, by time. There's lots of data that you can analyze here with your social media. So it's really for social media buffs. A very quick video. So all these apps are built on our platform, and it's really essentially it's sharing data privately. They can give you insights, give you lots of valuable information. And we're creating this economy, this personal data economy. You can slice and dice if you want to just have Facebook or Twitter, or if you want 1 or 2 or 3, by time, by number of comments and stuff in there. You can go and do lots of analysis on it. Finsights. This is a personal finance manager. Brings all your financial history and data together so you can see, search, and share and sort. Help you manage your finances better. You can search your transactions, which you can't necessarily easily do on your bank today. You can understand better your spending habits and things like that. Again, this is just to really hopefully inspire you on what's possible when you can start sharing data with these applications that are sitting on your device. This is our consent certificate again, which is a legal contract between you, the individual, and the third party that you're sharing your data with. Really all about data minimization. You're not proliferating your data in so many different networks. It's just you have the data. You're able to share the data with third parties. Next up is happy, not happy. This is machine learning on the edge. What they're doing is taking your social media data and giving it a score as to whether they believe that you're happy or not happy. It's not really that valuable as an application in itself, but I think what it's showing, hopefully, is what you could do with this. If you were to add in, maybe some of your wearables data, and how, if you're doing exercises, how that might correlate with you're happy or not happy. And if you can project forward, if you could then add in cognitive behavioral therapies to that, this could be hugely valuable as well. Again, all of this is done on the edge. None of your data is leaving your device. It's just a very simple app. It's just really to try and massage your brains on what's possible and what's not possible by sharing data. Just 2 more. Vax Abroad. Again, this was developed in Iceland. And some of these apps, by the way, they're developed in 2-3 days. Right? This is not massive, heavy lifting. This is really easy lifting because you're going to one source for the rich data. Vax Abroad, essentially, if you're going abroad, you don't necessarily know if your vaccinations are up to date, which vaccinations you need for the country. This will tell you. Again, this was developed in Iceland by Rion Software. based upon which country you're going, they will decide what vaccinations you need, and based upon the vaccinations that you have, that you've already shared with them, or to tell you whether you're up to date, whether you need to go and get a new one, if you need to go and get a new one, when you need to go and get it by before you go on holidays. If you're going on holidays, that is. So the last one is FinLove. FinLove. Think of Tinder, but with financial transactions. Again, this was thought up in Iceland, so don't blame me. It's been developed in Iceland. So essentially, where you like to shop, if you like to go to Costa Coffee, or if you like to go to Harrods, or if you like to go to wherever, and it will then match you up with like-minded people and like-minded shopping based upon your age and gender preferences. A bit crazy, but there you go. There are all sorts of things you can do with rich data, all sorts of things. We have a big focus on health, but this is, these are some different ideas, all sorts of different ideas. I think you get the idea. It's just matching it up by being able to share that data. So very quickly, instead of slowing down the internet, we can speed it up. We can get to these new economies, this new economy, and we can do it by putting in some security measures, which is privacy, security, and consent. Right? It can be done through the private sharing. It's all done processing on the edge. Huge benefits to society, to individuals, to businesses, and to governments. This is great for business, great for everybody. And by the way, Iceland is leading the way. Thank you very much.